By any standard, the real estate market at the moment is generating unprecedented interest. The question is, how do you get the attention of an increasingly better educated client base? Buyers and sellers alike have a voracious appetite for property information about their area. Area profile booklets are the perfect answer for the current mood. You may have noticed these types of publications popping up in your letterbox. They contain sales data and historical trends of all properties sold in your suburb or postcode over a given period of time. Personalise your report with your own properties and profiles highlighting and demonstrating your successes. Area profile booklets are available both in hard copy and online versions. The high retention rate of the hard copy version makes it an ideal product to letterbox drop and generate your next inquiry, whilst the online version can be sent to your existing database, eager to know the latest market trends in your area. Want to know more about area profile booklets? Click the More Information button or contact our Printforce specialist to discuss various options available.
Hello and welcome to another feast of great property news with Property News Update, and wait till you hear who my guest is today. I'll introduce you to her in just a moment, not that she needs any introduction. And we're going to talk about where Gloria grew up. Who's Gloria? You'll have to wait to see. We'll tell you about an old building, and I'm talking about a really old building that gets a new life. Backyards to balconies in Western Australia. Could this be Trump's biggest ever real estate deal? I wonder. And what about the house that Andrew can't sell? It's actually his own. Back in just a moment.
Did you know you can save up to 70% on your staff costs by outsourcing the low-value, repeatable tasks so your team can focus on growing your business? Beepo is an outsourcing provider focused on the real estate industry. With an English-speaking, tertiary qualified and fully trained team in the Philippines, Beepo will give your business the boost it needs to start growing and returning value to you. For more information, visit beepo.com.au.
And joining me as my co-host, Veronica Morgan. Hello, Veronica.
Hello, hello.
Guess where Veronica's from? We can tell because we can see the sign behind you. Good Deeds Property Buyers. Da-da-da-da. Well done.
Well, thank you.
Hey, I saw you the other day with Bryce Holdaway too. You were doing one of those, where was the camera? Up in the roof or something, was it?
Oh, he has this great setup. Yes, so he's got this special camera set up in the roof so he can draw on this big sort of, on the big paper, the big page, the big pad. And yeah, I had so much fun doing that. It was fun.
Looked really good. Looked really good. We're going to get Bryce back into the show too. He's a lot of fun. Let's get to our first story. This one comes from the top 10 real estate deals where Gloria grew up. The elegant Manhattan mansion, still known as the Vanderbilt Mansion, where Gloria Vanderbilt lived as a child before her mother took her, cruel thing, to Paris when she was only 10. What an awful thing to do to a child. It's on the market now for $50 million. They don't own it anymore. Hey, I read in the story that Anderson Cooper from CNN is actually Gloria's son. Did you know that?
I know, who would have known? No, I didn't know that until I read the story either.
Yeah, well, Carolyn, my wife, she knew. She said, yeah, I knew that, Kevin. I mean, if you watch CNN, Anderson Cooper is quite a regular anchor. But I thought this was an interesting yarn because it's always nice to see where the rich and famous live or lived or grew up.
Or lived. What I thought was it's a very vertical house. It's over 8 levels.
It's 3 apartments, isn't it? 3 apartments joined together. Yeah.
Yeah, there are now, but originally, and obviously, depending on who buys it, they might put it back into one residence. But so originally, it was 8-level house. Can you imagine that? It'd be pretty good for your bum.
Yeah, well, you're running up and down those stairs all the time. I don't think it would have had a lift either, would it? Because it's a pretty old building.
Well, I don't know. You think, well, it is an old building, but you think about, the old Art Deco apartment buildings. They've got lifts. They're a bit rickety, but they've got lifts in them. So maybe it would have.
Might have retrofitted them or something. Hey, what an incredible story, the Vanderbilt family and how they built their wealth. Firstly, always with transportation, I guess. It was like a ferry, I think from Manhattan, and then eventually went into railroads.
Well, I love the story when he borrowed the great-grandfather. Was it her grandfather?
Yeah, her father, might have been her grandfather, great-grandfather, don't know.
Yeah. So, I love the fact he borrowed $100 because he basically saw a business opportunity. It's like these people need to get from the mainland to an island, basically. Yeah. Just presenting and providing what people need. Fabulous. Yeah. And all these years later.
And then turning that into billions and billions of dollars. Quite amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. And world famous name, a world famous family.
Yeah, I think Gloria went into fashion, didn't she? Did she go into fashion?
She did go into fashion, and I think in the article it does refer to the fact that he must have been her great-grandfather, because I think it says that the third generation sort of started to squander the fortune, but she brought back some entrepreneurial flair and work ethic. Yeah,
it's interesting that the third generation story, because you quite often hear of the third generation. Was it the first generation's the founder, the second one makes the wealth, and the third one really spends it all, and they're probably... is a truism. I've often thought of that, and I don't want to put the mocker on them because they're almost through the third generation, but the White family have just thrown all that out the window. The third generation, Brian was the third generation, and he's just taken it from strength to strength.
There's also this sort of, you could get into this sort of mindset thing too, because I've often wondered about this, that if you have the mindset that you deserve wealth, you are worthy of wealth, you expect wealth, and you therefore attract wealth, there's a bit of an argument around, well, then that's why it continues in certain dynasties, you know? So I guess there's lots of different ways of looking at that.
Yeah, good on them. Good on them all, I think. I take my hat off to all those family businesses who just go on and do extremely well, like the White family. They've done a fabulous job. Hey, let's, before we go to our next story, I just want to remind you that Real Estate Talk number 372 is out tomorrow. Commercial property, what you should not do with it. And it's not buy it. We're going to tell you what you should do if you're going to buy it. And what's all the fuss about affordability? Gee whiz, we've got some great figures to tell you about properties under $400,000. Margaret Lomas joins me tomorrow on the show too, and we talk about her new book, which is actually around, I've got to say to you, the most listened to podcast we have ever produced. How about that, Veronica Morgan? No one's ever, oh yes, it is the most listened to podcast we've ever produced. So I'll talk to Margaret about that and her new book. Aussie cities ranked highly for price growth, and the two suburbs that boosted house and land packages. They're right in Brisbane. Did you know that? They're in Brisbane.
No, I did not.
And when they
give it away now?
Yeah, when they were created, they had no rail links either to them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
And that brought on the house land package. I don't know.
Face of everything.
I know it does. It does, interestingly. Okay, let's have a look at another story. This one comes out of commercial real estate. An old building that gets a brand new life. One of Sydney's oldest, most iconic buildings has officially joined the co-working revolution, with provider Hub Australia set to open the doors to its new Customs House offices. They're opening this week, I believe. Hey, interesting. That's an Australian company, Hub Australia, a bit like, what's the other co-working one? WeWork.
WeWork. There's a few of them. It's actually really interesting because, I've been watching the change of, tenancies in a lot of these buildings in the Sydney CBD. And, at first they seemed to pop up they were pop-up office spaces, that had the appropriate fittings for a pop-up office space as well. But this one is taking it to a whole new level, isn't it? It's a much more prestigious building. And it looks like, the fit-outs are meant to be, multi-million dollars. Yeah. So it looks like they've spent some serious coin on it. It looks like that the whole sort of co-working thing is going up a notch, into a real new level here.
Yeah, well, it is. And we've been looking at, in our company, looking at a lot of WeWork because we want to look at production facilities all around the world and as part of Property TV. And they provide an excellent example of what you can do. In fact, I went to a WeWork office in Sydney and I was staggered to find out that Domain is now across an entire floor under the WeWork banner. Isn't that incredible?
That is interesting. So when you've got sort of your blue chip tenants now actually effectively subleasing.
Yeah, that's right.
So they like the flexibility too, clearly.
Yeah, well, I went in to visit someone, and it was such a great experience just to walk in, and it was all so professional and well done, well lit, and just so well organised. So that's the future. That's that co-working space, and the place was packed. People working everywhere.
Yes, there's a real buzz, I have to say, and all that, the communal facilities and everything that's sort of laid on for you. I've got quite a few friends that have got businesses in a number of those co-working spaces in Sydney, and I don't have a co-work office in my little business, and I sometimes wonder whether that might be the next step.
Yeah, well, I think it's something a lot of people are looking very seriously at. So well done to them. Hey, let's go to story number 3. This one comes from the West Australian. Backyards to balconies in the West. It's anticipated that by 2050, percentage of Western Australians living in strata title complexes will be more than 50%. I was a bit surprised because I thought that was about the split now. What's your feeling?
Is it? Well, to be quite frank, I have to confess I'm not an expert in the Perth market or the West Australian market. I thought that sounded high. I really did. And I thought even for 2050, I thought, think about where all the people are going to come from, because generally speaking, people are more likely to live in an apartment when they can't afford a house, right? Or when space is at a premium and, and so they build apartments where land is becoming expensive. And not to say that Perth in particular, where land may not be expensive, although it hasn't seen much in the way of growth in the last decade. And you've got, I think, haven't they got negative migration figures or negative population growth figures? I am plucking this out of my head. So, but they've got very high vacancy rates, and they've got seemingly endless land to develop into. So it sounds high to me.
Yeah, well, I think we're talking here about Perth Central, not so much about, because if you look at Western Australia, the way the population goes, it stretches up and down the coast. So it's long and narrow. So maybe that's the restriction, I don't know. And who knows, maybe they just don't like to build on sand. There's a lot of sand there, I've got to tell you.
That is it. It's definitely there's a biblical principle in that. Not that I'm that much of an adherent to the Bible, but it does make sense.
Ah, dear, oh dear. So, that was a story that came, I think that came from the Institute over there. So those guys know what they're talking about. So there you go. Hey, the Australian, give us our next story. And we're going to tell you about Donald Trump's, what could be the biggest real estate deal he has ever done or is likely to do, or maybe he'll never do it. You never quite know with Donald Trump. Anyway, we'll be back in a moment to tell you all about it.
Your business card is a vital selling tool and a constant visual reminder of who you are, what you do, and more importantly, how you can be contacted. Introducing our new Velvet business cards, featuring a luxurious premium laminate that has a velvet texture and is soft to the touch. Printed on a resilient 450 GSM card, these cards can be printed with a range of spot gloss and foiling options to give your office that prestigious look.
Hey, welcome back to the show. As we launch into our next story, our guest host is Veronica Morgan from Good Deeds Property Buyers. You can see that right there, but just give us that display again, will you? Yeah, ta-da. Good Deeds Property Buyers. This next story comes from the Australian about Donald Trump's possibly biggest ever deal. He's just got a way of expressing things like everything's really great, but it might not be. You know how he does it? He sort of says, these negotiations are going really well, but they could just fall over.
Well, yeah, he's got about three adjectives he uses, and it's really, really, or very, very, and good or bad.
Yeah.
Pretty much it.
Well,
really,
what do you
really
reckon about this one? This is where he's looking to buy Greenland. I do believe, though, scoop. He's been knocked back. And now he said he's not even going to go and visit them because, hey, how would you be? The reason I wanted to talk to you about this one, because he's trying to buy Greenland. Why the hell I don't know, but he doesn't need any more land. But wouldn't it be great to be the listing agent? How would you be being the buyer's agent?
Well, I don't know. How would you work out the comps? It's apparently it's the world's biggest island.
Is it?
Obviously, we're on the world's biggest island, but with the continent, Australia. Apparently Greenland is the world's biggest island. So is he really just trying to be the billionaire that owns the world's biggest island? So is he actually trying to offer it or make an offer as Donald Trump, or is he trying to make an offer as the US?
Yeah.
And in which case, where's he going to get the approval to spend the money? Can you imagine that? Imagine him asking, Congress, look, I really reckon it's worth X amount of dollars, and once again, how are you going to justify it? So
you could do it on the back of saying, well, we're going to have some great tourism there because I'm going to put up a Trump Tower, then I'm going to build a golf course, and it'll be masses of tourism, and we'll make a fortune.
Well, apparently there's a lot of natural resources there. Unfortunately, with global warming, the ice caps are melting, and apparently it's revealing quite a lot of, minerals and things that are rather interesting. So maybe there's something in that. But you think that Denmark that owns it? Yeah, it's Denmark that owns it. You think they'd be all over that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think if you click on the link, you're going to see a photograph. Well, it's actually not a photo. It's probably a sketch of what a Trump Tower could look like on Greenland.
I think he tweet to say that, no, don't worry, Greenland, I'm not going to do this.
Oh, did he? I didn't read that bit. Yeah, okay, fair enough. I'm going to take you to our last story. Oh, this is so sad. The house that Andrew can't sell is his own. We are talking about Andrew Winter. And look, we don't like to take the mickey out of Andrew because I like him a lot. We've had him on our show many, many times. He is a great personality and a tremendous host of Selling Houses Australia. But let's face it, Veronica, he's there to actually tell people how to sell their property, and he can't sell his own. Maybe the 4 million, you don't want to get drawn into this. Maybe the 4 million is just too much. Maybe he needs us to say to him, hey, Andrew, at the end of the day, it's all about price.
Yes, well, he could. The thing is, Andrew's a lovely, lovely guy, I have to say. I met him many times because we were stablemates at Lifestyle, and he probably would enjoy the humour or the irony in this. He would. I have no doubt that he would have a good old laugh. Maybe slightly painful, but apparently he's owned 3 houses on Sanctuary Cove, is it?
Sanctuary Cove, yeah.
Crazy man-made island off the coast off the Gold Coast, which in a million years I'd never buy there. But I'm sure he would have a good laugh. But the thing is with Andrew, like all of us, as I want to say, the elephant, our subconscious mind, right? The elephant in the room is the podcast, yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, you had to get that in, didn't you? Good on you.
Plug in. Yeah. Our subconscious mind does drive so much of our, our real estate decision making, and even we experts can fall prey to being a little bit emotional about our real estate. So sometimes maybe he should be taking advice from someone other than himself, maybe.
I wonder if he's invited the Selling Houses Australia team in to help him with the makeover. It's like, but I've got to say, it's a pretty spectacular looking home.
Well, yes, but apparently he only bought it in March 2017 and did a big reno last year, and now he wants to sell it. So I guess, whether that's a makeover to sell or whether that's an attempt at trying to make money through flipping, I don't know. But it's a big play, when you're trying to sort of get back $4 million for a property. That's, I would imagine there's not a massive amount of buyers or with that amount of money at one particular time. So it might be a bit of a struggle, and maybe he's pitching it a bit high.
I think he needs to remember that every house sells, it all comes down to the price. You might disagree with that, but...
Well, that is the message that he gives the vendors on his show. There's no doubt about that. And I wonder if somebody needs to take him by the hand and drag him through those other properties that are listed at the same time.
Well, interesting to note that this is now his 3rd agent he's been with on the same property, and now he's taking it to auction. So there is the lesson. Listen to what the agents are telling you, Andrew.
Maybe. Or maybe the agents have told him, whoops, I've knocked something over here. Maybe the agents have told him what he wanted to hear.
Yes.
That does happen too at times.
That is a common thing. It's called buying the listing, isn't it, Veronica?
Yeah, so maybe he's fallen for that. That's the elephant again. Our subconscious wants to believe this stuff. So
Elephant. Hey, that'd be a great name for a podcast, Elephant in the Room. I think it's been taken.
Oh, yes.
And you're looking at the host, not me, Veronica, of Elephant in the one of the hosts of Elephant in the Room. It's a great podcast, and they are great buyers agents. They're called Good Deeds, and she is a wonderful person, and we love having Veronica Morgan on our show. You are welcome anytime.
Thank you very much, Kevin. It's always fun to chat about these stories with you.
Yeah, we're seeing you all the time, and we're loving your vignettes too.
Great. I'm going to give you more. Got more coming.
We want more. We want more.
About flawed thinking.
Yes, indeed. Good deeds. Get back and do a few good deeds. Come on, get on it. Have a good weekend.
See ya.
See ya, Veronica. And that's it for this week's show. Thank you very much for joining us. And don't forget, Real Estate Talk is out tomorrow. Watch out for it. And also check in to Elephant in the Room, the podcast featuring Veronica Morgan. I'm Kevin Turner. I'll see you next time.